Hello, everybody. It's your girl, Ashley, the amateur expert, coming to you live today for this episode of Talk Tuesday. Excited for us to be meeting. Again, it's always a pleasure to be here. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. I want you to know that we do this every week because I truly believe that when you share your story that you inspire others. So if you're interested in being on the show, definitely hit me up. Let me know. We are scheduling out through the summer, so email me, DM me, let me know what's up. Hey, I see y'all are joining. So happy to have you with us. Our guest for the evening is with us today, so I'm going to invite her in and we will get started. Trying to remember how to invite guests in. Got it. I don't think I said that. Happy Talk Tuesday, everybody. Hey, how are you, Ruky?
I am doing well. How are you doing, Ashley?
I am well. Thank you. Happy Talk Tuesday.
Yes, happy Talk Tuesday or Trademark Tuesday.
Ooh, okay. To the hashtags. We love it. Okay, so I want to jump right in. I want you to please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you are doing currently for work.
Yes, so first of all, I just want to start off by saying thank you so much, Ashley, for having me on your amazing platform. Little interesting story. I actually was following you before we met because I follow movers and shakers in these internet streets. So
I love
when
it.
we
Thank
met and
you.
we said, let's connect, you were like, wait, you follow me? I was like, girl, I know you. You big time. So, so first of all, thank you so much for just having me on your platform. So a little bit about me. My name is Ruky or Rukayatu Tijani, and I am the founder of Firm for the Culture. Firm for the Culture is an innovative virtual trademark law firm designed for social entrepreneurs and founders who really seek to play big. People who are really disrupting a lot of the industries that they're in, primarily by, amongst other things, increasing diversity in STEM education, representing individuals in the LGBTQ plus community, or even training young attorneys up to become effective litigators and partners in their own field. So people who are seeking to play big and really want a brand partner to really help them strategize and also protect their intellectual property before the United States Patent and Trademark Office through trademarks. Those are the clients that we serve. So everyone has a story, right? So here is a little bit about mine. First generation college graduate, first generation law school graduate from the projects of Brooklyn, New York. And after a few years of being an attorney, I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit the law entirely, primarily because,
Really?
yep, I did on several occasions actually. But God, come on, God, just yoking,
Amen.
just
Won't he do it? Won't he do it?
right if you let him, and he will stop you if you try to do it yourself.
Man,
So
won't he do that?
So I wanted to quit the law entirely, primarily because as the first in my family to attend law school and undergrad, I just didn't know what I didn't know about navigating this space effectively. So
Sure.
that along, just frankly, with the abysmal lack of diversity, really made me want to quit. But with mentors and sponsors and really some divine intervention, and that's a story for another time, but uh, I ended up not quitting. Like eventually, like essentially, Ashley, I'll just share really quick. I actually hustled my way into an interview for a diversity and
Hmm.
management role at Facebook. And the person ended up just praying with me and telling me, God is telling me it's time for you not to do this. I need you to stay a lawyer. And I was like, wait, what?
Wow,
So
wow, wow.
definitely, I told he will stop you. He will stop
He
you. Just
will he will put the
yoke
brakes
you up
on
real quick.
quickly. So wait, I have a
Yes.
question for you.
Yeah.
Question. So did you want to be a lawyer ever since you were a little girl, or like what was it that you wanted to be when you were a youngin' in these streets?
Absolutely. So the running joke is because I'm Nigerian, I had no choice but to be a lawyer, right? So, between the choices that we have, doctor, lawyer, engineer, or as my mother says, an embarrassment. So like that was that was like the running joke. But actually, I really did want to be a lawyer ever since I was in kindergarten, particularly when I heard about Thurgood Marshall and Charles Famous in Houston and the
Mm-hmm.
NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and really learns about all the cases that eventually led up to what we now know as Brown versus Board of Education,
Mm-hmm.
the two Supreme Court cases in 1954 and 55 that really stood as the law of the land to desegregate education, the educational institution as we know it in the United States. So ever since really learning about that from a young age, I wanted to be a lawyer. The journey from 5 years old to now was definitely tough, but it's something that I never really wavered in.
I love that. So tell me this. So I know you were limited in options in regards to what you could choose to be. But what does success look like for you when
Yeah,
you were younger, right? I know a lot of times as kids it's making our parents proud or like, getting the college degree and things of that nature. So if you can just share a little bit, and then you can share how it's changed if it has, to
yeah.
today.
Yeah, so when I was younger, I think success really looked like much of what success looks like for a lot of people, acquiring wealth, getting, to some extent stacking a bunch of accolades
Hmm.
and really being known for, having the degree or going to the school or going to all of these, really fancy schmancy places. And that was much of the type of success, the success template or success archetype that I essentially chased for much of my life or much of my career. And I'm not saying it's a bad or good thing, it's just the thing that I did. And, after going to Berkeley for law school, after navigating some of the most elite institutions in our country, having this sense of emptiness that didn't go away, even though I thought it would be fulfilled by
Yeah.
having, this Berkeley Law degree on my resume or by having positions at the top litigation firms in the country on my resume. It didn't necessarily fulfill or satiate this hunger for something more. So it really started to shift, and it shifted primarily when I started to make these positions an idol of sorts to my own mental
Hmm.
health, to the detriment of
Hmm.
my mental health.
Hmm.
I remember there was one time when I was in like a federal clerkship, and a federal clerkship is a really sought after position in the legal space. Like you can get huge, like six-figure bonuses if you join a job after doing a federal clerkship.
Wow.
Um, and a federal clerkship is just a fancy way of saying I was a ghostwriter for a judge, for a federal judge. Uh, that's how people, yeah, they get
Keep
that. They
keeping
get
it
that,
for
right?
the culture.
Yeah,
Hashtag for the
for the
culture.
culture, for the culture. So I was essentially a ghostwriter for the judge. So the cases would come before the court, and I would help essentially provide a thorough analysis and resolve the dispute between the parties at hand. And then, of course, with my judges, significant editing, the opinion eventually became the law, right? So really,
Mm-hmm.
really huge responsibility, really huge undertaking. And I remember I dropped the ball, frankly. I ended up dropping the ball
Mm-hmm.
on one of the biggest cases because of this like overwhelming sense of imposter syndrome, and because there was just so much by way of survivor's guilt, because I was the first person that got up that got out of like that kind of got out of my hood when I was in Brooklyn,
Mm-hmm.
New York. I was the first person to graduate. I saw a lot of people die on the way to this successful
Mm-hmm.
place. So when I
Yeah.
dropped the ball, I remember just thinking, wow, I am a failure as a person,
Mm.
to the point that I started actually having suicidal ideations.
Wow.
And from that point, I really had to redefine my archetype. I had to reshift. I had to shift my archetype to move from a place of thinking that success only meant being, this highly established attorney, to really something more internal. So, as hokey as it sounds, I really started to move, like shift inward and really look to God and say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, God, obviously the way I'm seeing myself isn't working right now. So I need you to show me the way you see me, and really, really honing in on that. Like I went really, really hard for a good season. Like I was part of a church where they had 5 a.m. prayer. I showed up at 5 a.m. I was there. I was at 5 a.m. prayer like every day,
Yeah.
because it was as if my life depended on my mind
Mm-hmm.
being renewed.
For sure.
So I think, and that was about 6 or 7 years ago at this point, which seems like, oh my gosh, a lifetime ago. But fast forward, now I see success as really being content with yourself and really understanding that you're moving in the purpose of what God has for you. Is it easy? No, absolutely not. There are definitely days that my anxiety gets the best of me, right? But is it success? Is it purpose? Is it driven by something that's bigger than me? Absolutely. And that's what I see success as now.
That is so beautiful. And thank you for sharing all of the journey for your new definition, because I do think it's important, because we see you today, we see firm for the culture, we see boss, like, right? And it's like that you are a success, and you were a success then as well. But I do think that it's very important to share, each step of that. So thank you for being so transparent.
My pleasure.
Imposter syndrome is a real, real, real thing.
It's so whack.
It is so whack. Is it something that you find yourself still dealing with today?
Um, I would say yes, from time to time. I think there are definitely things that I'm very confident about. At my firm, we have a 94% success rate, which is actually, really high considering that the national average when it comes to trademark protection is 60%. And that's if you go with an attorney, and then even less, about 42% if you go without an attorney. So there's definitely some things that I am pretty confident in because of the years that I've spent honing my craft and training my team around providing excellent client services. But there are definitely things that maybe fall outside of my wheelhouse that I may not know about, or not know that I don't know about, essentially. There's definitely, some aspects of leadership that God is definitely rising me up to. There's some rooms that I'm now navigating that I thought I had to be part of my big law job to have access to, and God is providing so much favor that now, even as a relatively smaller law firm, I'm still having access to these spaces and places. So there's definitely some imposter syndrome around that. But I think one of the things that I'm noticing about myself, because I do go to therapy, so I definitely reflect on this pretty often, is that when I'm about to level up of sorts, that's when a lot of the imposter syndrome comes. A lot of it comes. If I don't have it for a long time, it means largely that I'm staying stagnant, that I'm staying comfortable. So if, I am nervous, if I am not sleeping as much, and if you see me like literally just singing worship music at the top of my lungs because it's a coping mechanism for me, then, it's really to self-soothe just the beating heart and the noise and the angst and trepidation and hesitancy physiologically in my body that very much reflects me going to the next level. So yeah.
What's your go-to worship song that you're belting out?
Oh, so many. Recently, I have two, I would say. So the fortunate thing is I sing on worship and praise, so I have to know a lot of worship songs just on a weekly basis. But the two
Yeah.
that come to mind right now are Jehovah Jireh by Jacqueline Carr. Oh my gosh, she's a beast.
Okay.
She's a
Okay. Okay.
beast.
Okay.
And then also um, uh, I think this is the Surrounded. I think that's the name of the song. This is how I fight my battles. Yes, that song. Listen,
That.
I milli wop to that song. It is totally not a milli wop song, but I milli wop. I milli wop to the song because I'm still from Brooklyn. But that song really
I
gets me turning because it's like, it may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you.
Yes.
I milli wop. I milli wop. And that's how I fight my battles, by milli wopping for the ministry.
Literally. I love that. I love that. I love that. All right. So I want to go back into your journey a little bit. So we knew from five-ish that we wanted to be a lawyer.
hmm
So for someone um, who wants to follow that track, can you just sort of share your journey the fast forwarded version, like just the trajectory.
Yeah, so it's a journey definitely spanning, the better part of around 2.5 decades. So if, I was talking to my younger self and said, and really encouraged them to kind of streamline the process, because my journey was definitely one that was meandering of sorts, a meandering one of sorts, I would really tell them to focus on the pre-law programs as well as the pre-law opportunities that can really, one, just give them insight into the law school application or the law school application process, the law school aptitude test, the LSAT, and also, just visit law schools and really talk to the director of admissions, especially if you have a unique name, because name recall is definitely a thing.
That's good.
So if you introduce yourself to like people and you say, hi, my name is, Ashley, I'm the amateur expert, whatever shows up on an application per se, just that name recall can naturally conjure up some positive sentiment that can work in your favor. So that's definitely
That's really
something that I
good.
would
And that's good for any
encourage.
industry.
Oh, absolutely. Like, there's a
That's a good
reason
point.
why oftentimes before interviews or even in advance of sales calls, I may just like reach out to the person on LinkedIn and just say, hey, this is Ruky. I'm the founder of Firm for the Culture. I am super excited for our discussion. Please let me know if you have any questions. And just that name recall can really go a long way in associating my name with something positive or some type of positive sentiment. So that's definitely something that I eventually got to. Like I was, later on put in touch with a lot of admissions directors at a lot of law schools by virtue of the pre-law programs that I applied to and successfully was admitted into. And that I would say really fast-tracked my admissions process to my benefit.
Love that. Okay, so you're admitted to law school. How do you know what, I don't want to say trade or discipline. I'm not sure how it works for law.
Yeah, like what you focus
But
on.
focus. How did you decide what your focus was?
You know, so when you are in your first year of law school, everyone, just for purposes of being able to sit for the bar of your particular jurisdiction, everyone for the most part takes like about 4 or 5 basic courses, including contracts, torts, which is typically like personal injury cases, criminal law, civil procedure, which are like the rules of federal court, and maybe constitutional law. So those are like the basic 5 classes, and they can switch or vary that everyone has to essentially take in order to graduate and eventually sit for the bar exams.
Yeah.
So after that, you then have a choice of which classes to take. And by that point, I had, it was probably less than 2 years by that point, because I went straight from undergrad to law school, that I had graduated with a double major in both political science and Africana studies. And around that time, the shooting death of Trayvon Martin occurred. So I was like blackety black, blackety black, blackety black, black, black. And I was taking all of the classes that really aligned with my passion to really understand what is this body of law that we portend or that we purport to stand on. So a lot of the classes that I ended up taking included constitutional law, constitutional litigation, and really just understanding what are the words that have been brought forth regarding the founding of our country that I can then harken back to or stand on when it comes to talking about the civil rights that we have as not only citizens of the United States, but African Americans in particular. What a lot of people don't know is that even outside the Constitution, there's a part of the United States Code called Section 1983 that allows you to sue a officer, whether, state or, basically a state claim, because a federal claim is called a Bivens claim, but it allows you to sue a state officer for constitutional violations if they're acting, quote unquote, under color of state law. And oftentimes people think, oh, I have to have this constitutional right per se. And not necessarily. You really have to be able to attach the violation of your rights or civil liberties to some type of more general law, basically federal law. So learning about these things learning about these things allowed me to really understand how, like, what are the things that I can harken back to when it comes to teaching people or teaching my people, what rights they should be aware of as they move forward. So that's really what I focused on. Like, I focused on all the classes where there were like Black professors and they were really focusing on like constitutional law and civil liberties. And I also took critical race CRT, critical race theory, because as many people may or may not know, critical race theory was actually founded by this amazing scholar named Kimberly Crenshaw, who was a dynamic legal mind at UCLA School of Law. And critical race theory really just talks about how the legal system and the underpinnings of society as we know it today really buttress or really support racism. Essentially, it's not talking about how white people are evil. It's not talking about how, Black people are the saviors per se. It is really giving a relatively objective view as to how institutional racism and systemic oppression really work at a very base level. So I was able to study that in law school. And I would say that definitely allowed me to kind of go forward passed the bar exam. I took both of them, both California and New York. So passed both of them on the first try. Thank you, Jesus. But passed the bar exam. And it wasn't until I did my federal clerkship that I was really exposed to intellectual property law. And I know I'm at the risk of like prolonging my answer. What I will say, because I know a lot of people ask me, what kind of motivates me in terms of the practice areas that I pursue. And frankly, I'm a utilitarian in a sense that I'm not just simply going to sit down and read entire treatises just for the fun of it. Like, that's not how I operate. There has to be a really strong why as to why I do things. So what essentially led me, as I noted, what essentially led me into constitutional law was like the shooting death of Trayvon Martin and eventually Michael Brown and Sandra Bland and all of that. That's what drove me to really start to understand what is this body of law that we are claiming is equally applies to everyone, but is definitely discriminatory in nature, right? So what is that? And then it wasn't until I started really seeing the intellectual property of Black and Brown contributors to the culture getting stolen for no compensation that really drove me to start to understand, okay, what is this body of law that purports to protect us, but is not really doing so? Let me really work to understand that. And let me, try to crack the code of sorts so I can translate this information to individuals so they can, stop looking crazy in these internet streets, right? So that is what eventually led me to the different focus areas of my legal journey.
No, I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. And we connected because while you were we were both at the CALD conference with PT.
Yes, Story Rappers, PT.
Yes, love him.
Yes, ditto.
And you had raised your hand and said that you were an attorney and you help people with trademarks. And I was like, oh, me, yes. But like, I don't even know how I knew that I needed to have one, right? I think I'd taken a course I took a business course. I took, taking different things to help make my business be better. Just even in college, I think just an introductory course. But what are you doing to get the word out there? I know you said that it is important for you to enlighten and share with the culture that they need to have they need to protect their intellectual property. But like, what are some things that you do to reach us?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I really, really love to do is kind of combine pop culture or what's going on in the news with intellectual property protection. So if you follow us on Instagram at Firm for the Culture, you'll see some of my kind of tongue-in-cheek reels. One reel I kind of came on the heels of Slapgate, right? So Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. And around the same time, I'm sure as many know, like Encanto came out like 2 months before. So I shared a reel essentially saying there are three things that we don't talk about. We don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about Jada Smith's hair. And we also don't talk about, somebody's federally protected brands without a trademark license agreement or an assignment agreement. So really just trying to tie these things in a way that people can understand it, but it's still legally accurate. Another thing that we often do is provide free and low cost trademark workshops to founders and entrepreneurs who are really seeking to play big as part of our No Founder Left Behind initiative. And that allows us to really talk with people at a mass scale, people who may or may not otherwise, go forward with our services, because it can be an investment for some people, even though a lot of people find it well worth it. So we provide those services through, Ask Me Anything sessions or simple workshops where people can come and really just get a really, really thorough understanding of what is needed to successfully file a trademark, how you conduct a search at the United States Patent and Trademark Office, when you should incorporate the advice or the help of a federal attorney, of a trademark attorney, and what the benefits of having a trademark attorney by your side, especially if you want more than a simple trademark, particularly if you want that trademark to later on be monetized, later on be scaled, later on be part of negotiations, later on be part of licensing agreements, brand strategy, brand deals. If you want all of that, then we talk about the necessity of a trademark attorney and how we can, help you really scale significantly. So that's really kind of what we do to let people know about trademarks, intellectual property protection, and how it ties back to just the importance of Black and Brown founders understanding the value and the contributions that they make to the culture.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So I want to know, what's something that you know now that you wish you would known sooner in your career?
Whew. Free is expensive.
Oof.
Free is very, very expensive.
Tell me what you mean when you say
that. So I'll give a couple of examples, and this is why, and my team and I just frankly just stopped hiring people who offer to do things for free. We pay people. And we make sure we pay people, but with the payment comes a level of excellence that people have to adhere to in order to continue to be paid and stay at our firm. But when I would hire people for free, it actually cost me a lot more and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think people have to be intentional about why somebody is being placed in their business or organization. It may work for some people. Yeah. I'm sure there are institutions where people literally feel called to serve for no compensation. So I'm not, I'm not talking about those institutions. I'm just talking about me and how attempting to get everything for free 99 will actually cost you a lot more in the long run. So, there was, before I decided two situations. One, before I decided to invest in business coaching, I was definitely struggling because there was just some information or some insight that I just did not have access to unless I paid for somebody's expertise in that field. Yeah. And with that, they helped me avoid much of the pitfalls and the minefields, and that allowed me to scale to multiple six figures in a matter of 8 months. So that investment, far surpassed, that investment ended up far surpassing the initial money that I paid to my business coach. Because she gave me access to all of these dynamic people. She helped me scale out my systems. So it was definitely well worth it. So that's one situation. The second situation is when I hired a couple of interns who were definitely, amazing and precocious and wanted to know a lot of things, but because they didn't necessarily know the things that needed to, be known to provide a high quality client experience, that meant that I had to take time away from marketing and sales and lead generation in order to teach.
Yeah.
And that actually cost me a lot more money
Mm-hmm.
than it would have had I just hired someone who knew what they were talking about.
Yeah.
So again, everyone has to be intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Be intentional about why you're hiring this person, the things that they can stand to learn from you. But free is expensive. Free is
It is
very, very
expensive.
expensive if
That may
you
go
are
on a
seeking.
t-shirt.
Yeah, and it oftentimes, I one of the things that me and my team oftentimes do is we talk to a lot of clients who ended up going through LegalZoom. And, I'm not going to knock LegalZoom. There's definitely some benefits to LegalZoom. It's cheaper. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what LegalZoom won't tell you is whether your application will eventually mature into a registration, or whether there are some huge conflicts that you need to watch out for. So you're spending all this money just to get a refusal from the USPTO in the form of an office action. And now you're coming to me, and it's going to cost a lot more at this point
Mm-hmm.
to not only
Mm-hmm.
fix the situation, if it's salvageable at all, but to also
Right.
kind of start all over again, which makes it even more expensive because there were just some things that you didn't know when it came to navigating this 2-year long process that is the United States Patent and Trademark Office application process. So yeah, free is expensive.
Free is expensive. Oof. Okay. So I want to know, and you've already shared that to soothe yourself, you definitely break out into worship songs and you share some other things with us. But I want to know, what do you do to motivate yourself, and what are some tips that you can share with us?
Yeah. So one thing that I would love to share is that um, purpose doesn't always require or motivation.
Mm.
So there are definitely going to
Purpose
be
doesn't
days.
always require
Yeah,
motivation.
and by virtue of purpose being purpose, like your purpose is your purpose is your purpose. So by virtue of you pursuing it on one day and, and really moving forward in the direction of your purpose, it's not going to require, nor is it, and sometimes it's just going to require a work ethic that surpasses motivation. So there are definitely
Mm.
days that I'm just like, you know what? I don't want to do this right now, but I kind of have to. uh,
Mhm.
and we're just going to figure that out. And what happens in those instances? I call my support team. I reach out to my friends. I reach out to my network. I reach out to my business coach, just to kind of, focus on the top 2 to 3 things that if done by the end of the day, I would be proud of myself for, right?
So good.
So what keeps me motivated? I think the question that I think the bigger question for me is not necessarily what keeps me motivated, but what keeps me going,
Hmm.
which can surpass motivation some days, which
Hmm.
can really surpass motivation some days. And that is really the fact that this is a God-given purpose, the fact
Hmm.
that I am intentional about playing big with the clients who seek to scale significantly, the fact
Hmm.
that my mortgage is due, the fact that
That part.
the fact that I might like nice things, but also just frankly the fact that, I am really seeking to build something that is bigger than and more different than anything I had ever seen in my
Hmm.
lifetime. And yes, there are days that I take mental health days. Like, one of the things that T.D. Jakes said in one of his amazing sermons is you can take a day, but don't take a month, right? Like
Hmm.
you can take a day, but don't take a week.
Hmm.
So, don't, give yourself grace. Sometimes take a day, sometimes take an hour. But yeah, there are going to be things that frankly require a work ethic that surpasses motivation.
I love that. And it's about finding the balance. And PT's book, Balance, is out today. And
Yes, yes,
so
PT.
if you guys don't have it, get it because it is a blessing. And I thank you. I actually needed to hear that because my motivation has been low, low, low. But it's not about me. You're absolutely right. It's the gift and the dream and the passion that God has given me. And I need to just I just need to push through it. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So not only am I the amateur expert, I am the founder of Affirmed Armor. And we just
Mm.
recently did a launch in March and introduced a
Congrats.
new, thank you so much. We introduced a new affirmation. Our first one was I am enough. And the second one that we just released, or the third one actually, is I am evolving. And so I want to know from you, what is your go-to affirmation?
Whew. I think a lot of it, my go-to affirmation is really found in the scripture that PT and SJR reference a lot, which is Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you and
Mm-hmm.
I set you apart. So the affirmation that I have is like my purpose was given to me knowing that I would feel insecure, knowing that I would be
Mm-hmm.
tired, knowing that I would not feel like I could rise to the occasion, and that my purpose is still my purpose is still my purpose. Like God, the Bible talks about in Jeremiah 1:5, before even knitted you in your mother's womb, I knew
Mm-hmm.
you and I set you apart. Like you were set apart, before your mom even knew who you were.
Right,
And
right, right.
to know that that destiny was placed on the inside of you, that purpose was placed on the inside of you, in advance of your failures, in advance of your setbacks, in advance of, the times where you didn't feel like you could even engage the next step,
Mm-hmm.
is what keeps me going. Like there are definitely days I'm just like, you know what, Starbucks is looking real good right now. I heard they have, overtime.
Listen, they
Listen, I heard
benefits, they pay for you to
their
go back to
benefits.
school.
They out here giving college degrees and stuff nowadays. Like I was like, listen, I will serve a macchiato if I have to. Like there's definitely
Listen, I
days
have
that
had that same thought.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Like unapologetically. Like I'm always like one breath away from like asking the barista, so like y'all hiring? Cause sis need a sis need another job real quick.
A
But
something, a something, yes.
yeah, yeah. But with that said, in those same days, I, get the reminder that God gave me this vision to start this firm that provides very high quality legal services at a flat fee rate to
Mm-hmm.
dynamic founders who otherwise don't have access to the big law, my former $700 an hour like fee, who
Mm-hmm.
don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have access to those types of resources, but want to play big. So in those days, I'm like, God, this is all you. You got mail. Like, this is your business. Like, I'm going to need you to fix this up real quick. And he always comes through in ways that, continue to blow my mind to this day. So my affirmation, just to kind of put it succinctly, is that your purpose was placed on the inside of you before you were born. Keep on walking.
Amen to that. All right, so I am the amateur expert and I do know a little bit about a lot, Ruky. So I would love for you to share with me a random fact, something that I can say that you taught me. Now, granted, you done dropped a whole bunch of gems, right? So I'm just going to ask you to pull just one more out of your pocket.
Yeah. So I would be remiss if I never brought it back to trademarks because that is what I do. And I'm a total trademark geek. And there's barely a month that goes by where I'm not looking up Beyonce's trademarks. So, one random fact is that trademarks can actually extend to sounds and colors.
Hmm.
So, if we think of the sound, dun 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 dun, that's a trademark. That's a trademark.
Wow.
Or even the red under Louboutin shoes, that's a trademark. Or
Mm-hmm.
the robin blue that comes with jewelry, Tiffany blue, that's a
Mm-hmm.
trademark.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or the brown, the special variation of brown that comes with the USPS, that's a trademark. So
Wow.
trademarks, and the formal term is technically trade dress, which
Mm-hmm.
covers the look and feel of a particular item. But
Mm-hmm.
trademarks can act, the Birkin bag, the way that the Birkin bag is set up is a trademark.
Mm-hmm.
So trademarks can actually cover things that are more tangible in nature, beyond the brand name. So yeah.
That is an amazing fact that I did not know. So thank you for that. I want to give you an opportunity to share how we can support you, any projects you have coming up. Let us know what's going on in your world.
Yeah. So, first of all, again, Ashley, this is like I've definitely been kind of following you and liking your posts for a while. So, again, I just want to
Thank
start
you.
off by just saying thank you for
Thank you.
allowing me this platform to speak to your amazing audience. So, by virtue of allowing me this platform, you've already supported me. But for the listeners, at Firm for the Culture, we do provide trademark and brand strategy services for founders and businesses who really seek to play big and provide dynamic social impact in their communities. And historically, our favorite clients have been those who have gone on and disrupted different industries and are looking for somebody to be their brand, to be their brand partnership person, like the person
Hmm.
that can help them strategize their brand, the person that can help them protect a portfolio of different brand names that they may have. And again, I would be remiss if I didn't mention our 94% win rate. So we've been able to obtain, trademark protection for businesses that, for instance, are increasing diversity in tech, are, protecting the rights of transgendered youth, and are also advocating for attorneys of color. So if you know a business or founder, or if you are a business or founder who fits this bill, feel free to reach out to us at firmfortheculture.com/book. Let us know your goals. Let us know, why getting a trademark is important for you, and we will be more than happy to assist you. But thank you again,
Love
Ashley.
that. No, thank you. This was like, I'm gonna have to play this back again, but luckily I can just call you. But
There
y'all
you
go
go.
back and listen, Linda, to what was shared. So many great gems, and not just about the legal field, but just about motivation, about spiritual growth, and all the things. So, thank you again for being on the show. And y'all, actually, I think we're taking a break next week, but we will see you again very soon. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Peace out.
Peace out. Bye.